You know that moment when your whole world shifts and you realize the people you trusted most have been plotting against you? I'm talking about that gut-wrenching second when you overhear something you were never meant to hear. Words that turn your blood to ice. I'm Patricia Harmon, and this is the story of how I went from being everyone's favorite doormat to the woman who made my own family scream in frustration when their greed hit a steel wall. Before we dive in, tell me, where are you watching from today? Drop your state in the comments. I'd love to know I'm not alone in this, because what happened to me, well, it could happen to anyone. It was a Tuesday evening in March, just outside Portland, Oregon. I was 67 years old, a recent widow of 8 months, and still drowning in the grief of losing my husband, Robert. We'd been married for 42 years. 42 years of building a life together, raising our 2 children, Michael and Lauren, and working ourselves to the bone to create something meaningful. Robert had been a commercial airline pilot, and I'd spent 35 years as a registered nurse at Providence Portland Medical Center. We weren't wealthy by celebrity standards, but we were comfortable. Very comfortable. The house was paid off, we had healthy retirement accounts, and Robert's life insurance policy was substantial. Everything was in order, everything was planned. Or so I thought. That Tuesday, I'd invited Michael, Lauren, and their spouses over for dinner. It had become our weekly tradition since Robert passed, a way to stay connected, to feel less alone in that big house that suddenly felt too empty. I was in the kitchen pulling a roasted chicken from the oven when I heard them in the dining room. They'd arrived early, let themselves in with their keys, and didn't realize I was already home. My daughter Lauren's voice came first, sharp and eager. "She's completely checked out since Dad died. This is the perfect time." "I don't know." That was Michael, my son, but he sounded uncertain, not opposed. Then Lauren's husband, Derek. "Look, your mom's not getting any younger. In a few years, who knows what state she'll be in. Better to secure this now while we can manage it properly." "She won't fight back," Lauren insisted. "She never does. Mom's always been the peacemaker, the one who just goes along with everything. We just take control of the accounts, get our names added to everything, and just take it all," Derek finished. "She doesn't need that much money anyway. What's she gonna do with it? She barely leaves the house." My hands started shaking. The oven mitt slipped off and hit the floor with a soft thud. I stood there, frozen, chicken in hand, listening to my children, my babies, casually discuss robbing me blind. Michael's wife, Andrea, chimed in. "My friend's a paralegal. She said if we can get Patricia to sign a power of attorney while she's grieving and confused, we can essentially control everything. She'll never even notice until it's too late." They laughed. My children laughed at the idea of stealing from their widowed mother. That's when something inside me cracked. Not broke, but cracked open to reveal something I didn't know was there. Steal. I stood in that kitchen, still holding the roasting pan, and felt something shift in my chest. Grief. Yes, but not the kind I'd been drowning in for 8 months. This was different, sharper. This grief had teeth. I set the chicken down on the counter with deliberate care, my hands steadier than they'd been in months. Through the doorway, I could see them sitting around the dining table I'd set with my good china, the Lenox that had been my mother's. They looked so comfortable, so confident in their ugly little conspiracy. Lauren was pulling papers from her purse. "I printed out the power of attorney forms. We just need to get her to sign them tonight." "What's our excuse?" Michael asked. Derek leaned back in his chair. "Tell her it's for her protection, in case something happens and she needs someone to handle her affairs. Play up the 'we're worried about you' angle. She'll eat it up." Andrea nodded. "And once we have control, we transfer the bulk of the investments to our names. She keeps enough for basic expenses, and we take the rest. She'll never even check her statements." "Dad's life insurance?" Michael asked. $475,000, Lauren said, and I could hear the hunger in her voice. "Split 4 ways. That's almost $120,000 each. Plus, the investment accounts are worth about $800,000, and this house is worth at least $600,000 on today's market." They were literally calculating my worth, like I was already dead. Michael whistled low. "Jesus, I didn't realize they had that much put away. Your parents lived like they were broke, Derek said with a sneer. Meanwhile, they were sitting on almost $2 million in assets. Ridiculous. Well, not anymore, Lauren said. Come on, let's practice this. Andrea, you play mom. I'll pitch the power of attorney idea. I'd heard enough. More than enough, but I didn't storm in there. I didn't confront them. Instead, I did something they would never expect from sweet, compliant Patricia. I pulled out my phone and started recording. I crept closer to the doorway, holding my phone around the corner, capturing their faces, their voices, every word of their rehearsed manipulation. They ran through it twice, refining their approach, discussing how to handle me if I showed any resistance. She'll cry, Michael said. Mom always cries when she's overwhelmed. Then we comfort her, Lauren replied smoothly. We tell her we're doing this because we love her, because Dad would want us to take care of her. We make her feel guilty for even questioning it. I recorded for 12 minutes. 12 minutes of my children plotting to exploit my grief, steal my financial security, and leave me dependent on their generosity. 12 minutes of evidence that would prove very useful very soon. When they finally called out, "Mom, you here yet?" I slipped my phone into my pocket, pasted on a shaky smile, and walked into that dining room carrying the chicken like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. "Oh, you're already here," I said, letting my voice quaver just right. "I didn't hear you come in. I'm so glad you're all here." Lauren stood and hugged me. "We wanted to talk to you about something important, Mom." "Of course, sweetheart," I said softly. "Whatever you need. Let the games begin." I set the chicken on the table and took my seat at the head, Robert's old spot that I'd been avoiding for months. But tonight, I needed to see all their faces clearly. Lauren reached across and squeezed my hand. "Mom, we've been worried about you." "Worried?" I let my voice crack a little. "Why worried?" Michael jumped in, right on cue. "You're here all alone, managing everything by yourself. Dad's only been gone 8 months and there's so much to handle. Finances, legal stuff, the house maintenance. It's too much for one person, especially when you're grieving." I watched them work, these strangers wearing my children's faces. Lauren had her concerned daughter expression perfected. Michael looked earnest and caring. Their spouses nodded along sympathetically. Andrea leaned forward. "Patricia, we love you, and we want to make sure you're protected." "Protected?" I repeated, channeling every ounce of confused widow I could muster. Derek slid the papers across the table. "We brought some documents we think would help give you peace of mind. It's called a power of attorney. It just means that if anything happens, if you get sick or need help, we can step in and manage things for you." I picked up the papers with trembling hands, not from fear, but from the sheer effort of containing my rage. I don't understand. Manage what things?" "Your bank accounts, investments, the house," Lauren said gently. "Just to make things easier for you, Mom, so you don't have to worry about all those complicated financial decisions. We know how much Dad handled all of that." Oh, they were good. They really were. Robert had managed our investments, true, but I'd been a nurse for 35 years. I knew how to read paperwork, how to understand medical bills more complex than any financial statement, how to spot a con when I saw one. "This would give you access to everything?" I asked, scanning the document. "Only if you need help," Michael lied smoothly. "It's just a safety net." I looked up at them with watery eyes. "You'd do this for me?" "Of course, Mom," Lauren said. "We're family." Family. The word tasted like ash in my mouth. I picked up the pen they'd helpfully placed next to the papers. I held it over the signature line while they all held their breath. I could feel their anticipation, their greed hanging thick in the air like smoke. Then I set the pen down. "You know what? I think I need to read through this more carefully first. Maybe have my lawyer look at it. Robert always said never to sign anything without having Bill review it." Bill Morrison had been our attorney for 20 years. The disappointment was immediate and palpable. Lauren's smile tightened. "Mom, it's really just a formality. There's nothing complicated about it." I'm sure, sweetheart, but I'd feel better if Bill saw it first. He's helped us with everything over the years. In fact, I have an appointment with him on Friday anyway to go over some of Robert's estate details. I'll bring it then. Michael's jaw clenched. Mom, this is really something that would be better to handle sooner rather than later. Oh, I'm not worried, I said with a vague smile. Friday's only 3 days away. Now let's eat before everything gets cold. I served dinner while they barely touched their food, frustration radiating off them in waves, and I smiled through every single bite. They left early that night, making excuses about work in the morning and prior commitments. Lauren hugged me at the door, holding on just a beat too long, her voice honey-sweet. Think about what we discussed, okay, Mom? We really do just want to help. I know, baby, I said, patting her back. I'll talk to Bill about it. The moment their cars pulled away, I locked every door, closed every curtain, and sat down at Robert's desk in his study. I hadn't been able to enter this room since he died. It still smelled like his cologne and old books. But tonight I needed his space, his clarity, his files. I pulled out my phone and played back the recording. Hearing it again in the silence of the house made it worse somehow. She won't fight back. Just take it all. My daughter's voice, so casual, so certain of my weakness. They were wrong. I opened Robert's filing cabinet and pulled out every financial document we owned. Bank statements, investment portfolios, insurance policies, property deeds, account numbers. Robert had been meticulous. Everything was labeled, organized, current. Then I made a list. Our primary checking account at Wells Fargo, $43,000. Savings account, $87,000. Robert's life insurance payout, $475,000, currently in a separate holding account. Investment portfolio with Fidelity, $803,000. My retirement account, $267,000. Robert's pension survivor benefits, $3,100 monthly. The house, valued at approximately $615,000, fully paid off. Total assets, roughly $290,000. They'd been slightly off in their calculations that night, but not by much. $2 million was apparently enough to turn your children into thieves. I sat back in Robert's leather chair and let myself feel it. The full weight of the betrayal. These were the babies I'd nursed through fevers, the children I'd driven to soccer practice and piano lessons, the young adults I'd helped through college. The people I'd loved more than my own life, and they saw me as nothing more than a piggy bank to raid. At 11 p.m., I called Bill Morrison's emergency line. He answered on the third ring, his voice groggy. Patricia, what's wrong? Bill, I need to see you first thing tomorrow morning. Not Friday, tomorrow, and I need to bring someone with me. Someone who can transcribe and notarize everything we discuss. Can you arrange that? His tone sharpened immediately. What's happened? I'll explain everything tomorrow, but Bill, this is about protecting myself from my own children. There was a long pause. I'll clear my morning schedule. Come at 8. Thank you. I hung up and opened my laptop. The next 3 hours were spent making careful notes, printing account statements, organizing evidence. I created a detailed timeline of every interaction with my children since Robert's death, noting every time they'd asked about finances, every suggestion they'd made about simplifying my accounts, every instance of them volunteering to help with paperwork. The pattern was clear. This hadn't been a spontaneous idea born over dinner. This had been planned, calculated, building toward that night when they'd finally make their move. At 2 a.m., I finally went to bed, but I didn't sleep. I lay there in the dark, in the bed I'd shared with Robert for 4 decades, and I felt him next to me like a ghost. I've got this, sweetheart, I whispered. I'm going to handle this. And somewhere in the darkness, I swear I felt him answer. I know you will. Bill Morrison's office overlooked downtown Portland, all glass and polished wood. I arrived at 7:45 a.m. with a folder thick enough to beat someone with. Bill met me in the lobby himself, his silver hair immaculate as always, but his expression was grave. Patricia, come in. His assistant, Marianne, a notary public and paralegal I'd met at several of Robert's business dinners, was already waiting with her laptop and seal. Bill closed the door behind us, and I placed my folder on his desk. Play this first, I said, pulling out my phone and setting it between us. For 12 minutes, Bill and Marianne listened to my children plot to rob me. Bill's face went from concern to thunderous. When Lauren's voice said, "She won't fight back, just take it all," Marianne's hand flew to her mouth. When it ended, Bill sat back heavily in his chair. "Jesus Christ, Patricia." "I need everything locked down," I said, and my voice was steady as stone. Every account, every asset, every possible avenue they could use to access my money. I want a fortress built around my finances, and I want it done today. Bill nodded sharply. "Marianne, start documenting. Patricia, walk me through everything." For the next 2 hours, we built my fortress brick by brick. First, I called every financial institution where I held accounts. With Bill's legal authority and my explicit instructions, we added red flags to every single account, notations that no one was authorized to make changes, withdrawals or inquiries except me in person, with photo ID and a verbal password that only I knew. The password I chose? Steel Widow. Second, we removed Michael and Lauren's names from everything. Years ago, Robert and I had added them to our checking account as authorized users, just in case of emergencies. That access was now revoked. Third, I changed every single online password. Bill's IT specialist came in and helped me set up two-factor authentication on everything. Banking apps, investment accounts, email, everything. Every login attempt would now require a code sent directly to my phone. Fourth, we drafted and notarized a new ironclad power of attorney that explicitly excluded my children and named Bill as my sole legal representative should I become incapacitated. It included specific language stating that any previous verbal or written agreements regarding financial management were void. Fifth, and this was Bill's suggestion, we set up a revocable living trust. Every major asset, the house, investment accounts, insurance payouts, was transferred into the Patricia Harmon Trust, with me as trustee and Bill as successor trustee. My children were listed as beneficiaries upon my death, but with zero access or control while I was alive. This essentially removes everything from their reach, Bill explained. They can't claim ownership, they can't petition for control, and if they try to challenge this legally, they'll have to prove you were mentally incompetent when you created it, which this recording proves you were not. Marianne notarized every document. Bill made copies of everything, including the recording. One set went into his safe, one set went into a safety deposit box at a bank my children didn't know about, and one set came home with me. By noon, I was untouchable. "What are you going to tell them?" Bill asked as I prepared to leave. I smiled, a real smile sharp as a knife. "Nothing yet. Let them try." "Patricia," he said seriously, "be careful. When people realize they've lost access to money they thought was theirs, they can get dangerous." "Bill," I replied, "I raised them. I know exactly how dangerous they can be." I spent the next 2 days in careful preparation. To anyone watching, I was just a grieving widow going about her quiet routine, grocery shopping, tending the garden, taking slow walks around the neighborhood. But behind closed doors, I was a general preparing for war. Thursday morning, Lauren called. "Mom, hi, did you talk to Bill yesterday?" "Oh yes," I said vaguely. "We went over some of your father's paperwork. So much to handle. And the power of attorney? What did he say?" "He had some suggestions," I replied, which was technically true. "I'm still thinking it over." I could hear the tension in her voice. "Mom, we really think it's important. Michael and I were talking, and we'd feel so much better if we knew someone was looking out for you." "That's sweet, honey. Hey, why don't you all come over for dinner on Saturday? We can talk about it then." There was a pause, then, "Saturday? Not sooner?" "I'm tired today, and tomorrow I have my garden club meeting. Saturday works better. Is 6 o'clock good?" She agreed, though I could hear the frustration underneath. The moment we hung up, I called Bill. "Saturday at 6. They'll probably bring the papers again, maybe with some new angle." "Do you want me there?" he asked. "No, I need to handle this myself, but I want you on speed dial just in case." Saturday arrived gray and drizzly, typical Oregon spring weather. I spent the afternoon cooking. Pot roast, garlic mashed potatoes, green beans, homemade rolls. Not because I wanted to feed them, but because I needed them comfortable, unsuspecting, seated around that table when I lowered the boom. They arrived promptly at 6, and I noticed immediately that they'd dressed up slightly. Michael in a button-down shirt instead of his usual t-shirt. Lauren in a blazer. Their spouses carried briefcases. This wasn't just dinner. This was an intervention. We made small talk through the meal. They asked about my week, my health, whether I was sleeping okay. I played along, the fragile widow, mentioning that I'd had trouble sleeping, that I felt overwhelmed by all the decisions I had to make alone. I watched Lauren exchange glances with Michael. They thought they had me. After dinner, as I served coffee and the apple pie I'd made, Derek cleared his throat. "Patricia, we wanted to talk to you about something important." "Before you do," I said, setting down the coffee pot, "I want to talk to you about something first." I pulled out a folder from the kitchen counter, not the one from Bill's office, but a different one I'd prepared specifically for this moment. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said on Tuesday, about the power of attorney, about managing my finances, about how I need help." Their faces lit up. They actually smiled. "And you're absolutely right," I continued, returning to my seat at the head of the table. "I do need to make sure my assets are properly managed and protected." "Exactly," Lauren said eagerly. "We're so glad you understand." "Which is why," I interrupted gently, "I met with Bill Morrison on Wednesday and transferred everything into an irrevocable trust, removed all of you from my accounts, and assigned Bill as my power of attorney." The silence that fell was deafening. Michael blinked. "What?" "I also changed all my passwords, set up two-factor authentication, and placed alerts on every account. No one can access my money but me." For 3 long seconds, nobody moved. They just stared at me like I'd started speaking a foreign language. Then Derek's face flushed red. "You did what?" "I protected myself," I said calmly, taking a sip of my coffee. "Surely you understand. You were so concerned about my well-being after all." Lauren's mouth opened and closed. "Mom, you can't just... We were trying to help you." "Were you?" I pulled out my phone and set it on the table. "Because I have a 12-minute recording from Tuesday night that tells a very different story." The color drained from Lauren's face. Michael's eyes went wide. Andrea and Derek exchanged panicked looks. "You recorded us," Michael's voice cracked. "You were in my house conspiring to steal from me. Yes, I recorded you, every word. She won't fight back, just take it all." "Ring any bells?" Lauren's shock was transforming into anger. That's illegal. You can't record people without their consent." "Oregon is a one-party consent state," I replied. "I only need my own consent to record conversations I'm present for. Bill verified it. The recording is completely legal and admissible in court should it come to that." "Court?" Andrea gasped. "Patricia, you wouldn't what? Prosecute my own children for attempting financial exploitation of an elderly person? Oh, Andrea, you'd be surprised what I would do now." Michael pushed back from the table. "Mom, stop. This is insane. We were just trying to help manage things for you. You're grieving. You're not thinking clearly." "I'm thinking more clearly than I have in years," I cut him off. "And I heard exactly what you said. You wanted to take control of my accounts while I was checked out. You calculated my net worth down to the penny. You planned to leave me just enough for basic expenses while you split everything else 4 ways. You rehearsed how to manipulate me, how to make me feel guilty for questioning you, how to exploit my grief." Lauren stood up, her hands shaking. "You don't understand. Derek's company is struggling. We have expenses. Your financial problems are not my responsibility," I said, and the steel in my voice surprised even me. "I worked for 35 years. Your father worked for 40. We sacrificed. We saved. We planned. That money is mine, earned through our labor, and it will remain mine until I die." "When you die?" Derek laughed bitterly. "You mean if anything's left after you blow it all on?" "Careful," I warned. "Finish that sentence and I'll have Bill file a restraining order before sunrise." The room erupted. Lauren started crying, claiming I was being cruel and paranoid. Michael accused me of trusting strangers over family. Andrea called me ungrateful. Derek just sat there, his face twisted with fury, calculating how thoroughly I'd outmaneuvered them. If you're still watching this, if you've stayed with me through this story, please hit that subscribe button, because what happened next proved just how far people will go when money's involved, and you won't believe where this goes. Through all their yelling, I remained seated, calm, unmoved. Finally, when they'd exhausted themselves, I spoke. Here's what's going to happen now. You're going to leave my house. You're going to leave my finances alone. And you're going to think very carefully about whether you want a relationship with me based on respect, or if you'd rather have no relationship at all. You're choosing money over your own children. Lauren sobbed. No, I said quietly. You did that. I'm just refusing to be your victim. They stormed out into the rainy night, and I locked the door behind them. My hands were shaking now, not from fear, but from adrenaline. I'd done it. I'd stood up to them, called them out, protected myself, but I wasn't naive enough to think it was over. I was right. Sunday morning at 7 a.m., my doorbell started ringing insistently. I looked through the window and saw Michael's car in the driveway. I didn't answer. He rang 14 more times, then started calling my phone. I didn't pick up. By Sunday afternoon, I had 17 missed calls and dozens of text messages from Lauren. Mom, please, we need to talk. I'm sorry. We love you. Please don't do this to us. From Michael. You're being manipulated by that lawyer. He's just after your money himself. Let us help you. From Andrea. You're tearing this family apart. Is that what Dad would have wanted? That last one made me furious. Don't you dare bring Robert into this, I texted back. He'd be ashamed of all of you. Monday morning, things escalated. I went to the grocery store, and when I returned home, I found Lauren sitting on my front porch crying. Mom, please, just talk to me. We talked on Saturday, I said, unlocking my door. She followed me inside without invitation. Mom, I'm desperate. Derek's company is about to go under. We could lose our house. I was going to ask you for a loan, but then Michael said we should just get control of everything because you weren't using it anyway. And I know it was wrong, I know it, but I'm scared and I didn't know what else to do. For a moment, just one moment, I felt that old maternal instinct to fix everything, to rescue her. Then I remembered, she won't fight back. Just take it all. Lauren, if you'd come to me honestly and asked for help, we could have had a conversation. I might have helped you. But instead, you conspired to rob me blind and leave me dependent on your mercy. Do you understand the difference? I made a mistake. You made a choice. You chose to see me as an obstacle to overcome, rather than as a person deserving respect. That's not a mistake. That's a fundamental failure of character. Her tears turned to anger. You're really going to let your own daughter lose her house. I'm going to let you experience the consequences of your decisions. Welcome to adulthood. She left screaming that I was heartless, that I'd regret this, that she'd never forgive me. Tuesday, Michael tried a different approach. He called Bill Morrison's office and told the receptionist there was a family emergency, that I was having a mental health crisis and needed immediate intervention. Bill called me immediately. Patricia, I'm documenting everything. Michael claimed you were suicidal and that your recent legal actions were evidence of diminished capacity. My blood ran cold. He's trying to have me declared incompetent. Yes, but it won't work. I have the recording, the documentation of your clear decision-making, and I'm preparing a protective order. If he tries to file anything with the court, we'll crush it. Wednesday, they tried the direct approach. I woke up at 2 a.m. to the sound of someone trying to use a key in my back door. I crept downstairs and peeked through the kitchen window. Derek was there, trying different keys from a ring, obviously attempting to use old copies they'd had made years ago. I'd changed the locks on Monday. I called 911. There's someone trying to break into my house. The police arrived within 6 minutes. I watched from my bedroom window as Derek was caught red-handed at my back door, fumbling with keys that no longer worked. The officers questioned him while he tried to explain that this was his mother-in-law's house, that he was just checking on her, that he had every right to be there. At 2 in the morning? One officer asked skeptically. And you didn't ring the doorbell? I came downstairs in my robe and slippers, playing the frightened elderly widow perfectly. "Officer, I don't know why he's here. I didn't invite him." "Patricia, tell them," Derek shouted. "Tell them I'm family." "You're my daughter's husband," I said quietly, "but that doesn't give you the right to enter my home without permission, especially not at 2 in the morning. I'd like him removed from my property, please." They didn't arrest him. Trespassing by a family member rarely leads to charges, but they escorted him away with a firm warning. I filed a formal report anyway. Bill had told me, "Document everything." Thursday morning, Lauren showed up with her pastor, Pastor Evans from her church, a kind-faced man in his 60s who I'd met once at their son's baptism. He looked uncomfortable. "Mrs. Harmon, Lauren asked me to come speak with you about reconciliation," he began. "Did she tell you what she and her brother tried to do?" I asked bluntly. He shifted. "She said there was a misunderstanding about some financial arrangements." "There was no misunderstanding. They conspired to steal my life savings while exploiting my grief. I have recordings. Would you like to hear them?" His eyes widened. Lauren grabbed his arm. "Pastor, she's not well. The grief has made her paranoid." "Lauren, stop." He pulled away from her. "Mrs. Harmon, I'm sorry. I didn't know the full situation. I'll excuse myself." After he left, Lauren's mask finally shattered completely. "You've turned everyone against us. You've made us look like monsters." "I haven't made you look like anything. I simply told the truth." "Mom, I'm begging you. Please, we need help. I need $50,000 or we lose." "Everything." "No. Just a loan. I'll pay you back." "With what money? You don't have any. That's why you tried to steal mine." She slapped me, right across the face, hard enough to snap my head to the side. I touched my cheek, feeling the sting, and looked at her. Really looked at her. My daughter, who I'd rocked to sleep as a baby, who I'd nursed through chicken pox, who I'd helped plan her wedding. This stranger wearing her face. "Get out of my house," I said softly. "Don't come back." "Mom." Her voice broke, realizing what she'd done. "If you contact me again, if you come to my property again, if you try to access my accounts again, I will file for a restraining order and I will press charges for assault. Get out." She left sobbing. I locked the door behind her, went to the bathroom, and took a picture of my red, swelling cheek. Then I called Bill. "They hit me," I said, my voice steady. "I want restraining orders filed today, all 4 of them." "I'll have them ready by close of business," Bill replied, his voice grim. "Patricia, I'm sorry it came to this." "I'm not," I said, staring at my reflection in the mirror, at the woman who'd finally learned to protect herself. "I'm not sorry at all." The restraining orders were served on Friday. Michael called Bill's office 37 times that day, leaving increasingly unhinged voicemails that only strengthened our case. By the following Tuesday, all 4 of them were legally prohibited from coming within 500 feet of me or my property. The police report from Derek's attempted entry, combined with photographic evidence of Lauren's assault, made the orders easy to obtain. The judge who reviewed my case, a woman in her 70s herself, looked at the evidence and said, "Granted. And Mrs. Harmon, I'm sorry your family put you through this." Bill helped me file reports with Adult Protective Services, not to punish my children, but to create an official record in case they ever tried to claim I was incompetent. The social worker who interviewed me was thorough and kind. She reviewed everything, the recordings, the timeline, the medical records proving my sound mental health. "You did everything right," she told me. "You protected yourself before they could do real damage. I wish more people in your situation were as proactive." 2 weeks after the restraining orders, Michael's wife Andrea called Bill's office from a different number, claiming she wanted to apologize and asking if I'd drop the order against her. Bill recorded the call. Within minutes, she was asking if there was any way to negotiate a settlement to make this all go away. "This isn't a negotiation," Bill told her. "Mrs. Harmon has no interest in your family's financial problems. The restraining orders stand. I won't lie and say it didn't hurt. Some nights I still lay awake, grieving not for Robert this time, but for the children I thought I had. The ones who existed before greed poisoned everything. But I also felt something unexpected, relief. The constant low-level anxiety of managing their demands, their judgment, their expectations, it was gone. I sold the big house 3 months later. Too many memories, too many rooms. I bought a beautiful 2-bedroom condo in a secured building downtown with a doorman and security cameras. My neighbors are other older adults, and we have coffee in the common room and play cards on Thursday nights. The trust remains ironclad. Bill manages it brilliantly, and I live comfortably on the distributions without touching the principal. I volunteer at the hospital where I used to work, mentoring new nurses. I took up watercolor painting. I joined a book club. I'm traveling to Scotland next month, something Robert and I always planned but never did. My children have each reached out through various means: letters left at Bill's office, messages through distant relatives, emails from new addresses that get automatically filtered to spam. I haven't responded to any of them. Maybe someday I will if they ever show genuine remorse rather than just anger at being caught. But for now, I'm at peace. I protected myself. I stood up for myself. I refuse to be a victim. And if my story helps even one person recognize the warning signs, helps even one person find the courage to protect themselves from family members who see them as a bank account rather than a human being, then sharing this was worth it. They whispered, "She won't fight back, just take it all." They were wrong. I'm Patricia Harmon. I'm 71 years old, and I am nobody's victim.